Hey guys, welcome to Parallel and Perpendicular Lines. Today our goal, so if you write parallel and perpendicular lines at the top, our goal is to determine the relationship between two lines by comparing their slopes and their y-intercepts, which we've talked about quite a bit. So first of all, slopes of parallel lines. So I want you to draw all of this, including the picture and the example. Non-vertical lines, so we're talking about non-vertical, so they can be slanted or something like that, are parallel if they have the same slope and different y-intercepts. Okay, so same slope, that's key right there. They have to have the same slope, which means they rise and run at the same rate. But they have to have different y-intercepts. If they have the same y-intercept, they'd be the same line. So vertical lines are parallel if they have different x-intercepts. So here's our graph. Notice 1/2 and 1/2. Those are our slopes right in front. That's in y equals mx plus b. But then we have a y-intercept of 1 and a y-intercept of -2. So these two lines would be parallel. Let's take a look at another example. And this is perpendicular lines. So go ahead and write this box down as well. And perpendicular lines, they have a product. Their slopes make a product of -1. We're going to look at that as opposite reciprocals. So we want to go ahead and look at that. So vertical and horizontal line would also be perpendicular. So 1/2 and -2. So they're opposites. One's positive, one's negative, and they're also reciprocals, right? 1/2 and 2. If you flipped it, we would get it. You could also show the multiplication 1/2 times -2 would equal -1. Let's go ahead and see how we can use this within context of graphing. Okay, for our first example, we have a point and it's parallel to the slope. Okay, well, that essentially means that we have a point and we have a slope. Now we have an equation that we can use to solve this. It's called point slope. Y minus y1 equals m and x minus x1. So what we want to do is we want to take the point of x1, y1 and plug it in and take the slope. Because it's parallel, we know the slope is the exact same. So we're going to go ahead and plug this in. We get y minus 5 equals 2/3 x minus 12. Now we want to solve this for y equals slope intercept, or y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to have to distribute this in to our parentheses. So we get 2/3 x. Now if I take 12 and I divide it by 3, that's 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So we get 2/3 of 12 is 8 equals y minus 5. And for our last step, we're going to go ahead and add the 5 over. And we get y equals 2/3 x. And instead of -8 and 5, we're going to have -3. Okay. And real quick, to summarize, look at this slope is the same as this slope, so we do know these two lines are parallel. And this has a y-intercept of -1, while this has a y-intercept of -3, so we know this is going to work. Okay, so this is much like our last problem. This time we're going to be talking about a point and it being perpendicular to the graph. Okay, so we have our point and we have the slope, but we need to do some work with the slope because the slope is not going to be 1/3. We want the opposite reciprocal. Okay, so we want to take the opposite reciprocal. Okay, so we have 1/3 is the slope given to me. So the opposite reciprocal is going to flip it, so that's going to become 3, and do the opposite, which would be negative. So my slope is going to end up being -3. So I'm going to use this slope plus these points, x comma y, in my slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and plug it in. We get y minus 4 equals a negative 3 x minus 2. Again, next step, we're going to distribute this in. So we get negative 3x. That's going to become a positive 6. And then we're going to just add that 4 over. And we get y equals negative 3x plus 6. Sorry, plus 10. 6 plus 4 is 10. And there's our final answer. Notice the slopes are opposite reciprocals. We have different y-intercept, not that that matters, but it's all about the slope being opposite reciprocals. So let's look at one more. Okay, for our last one, let's write this one down. Are the graphs of this and this parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, we really need to just focus on two things, mainly our slopes. So this has this slope, but I don't know this slope. And so we recall that our parallel lines will have the same slope. These will have opposite reciprocal slopes. And then neither means it won't be one or the other. So opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, so here I have this slope, but this one I don't. So we're going to have to divide everything over here by 4. And then we get y equals, it's going to be negative 5 over 4x plus 3. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the slopes. Okay, so 4 over 5 and 5 over 4, they're obviously flipped. One's positive, one negative. That means they are opposite reciprocals, so our answer is perpendicular. Okay, if they were the same slope, we'd say parallel. If they were neither one of those two, then it would be nothing. Okay, all right, over and out.